Golden Experience Requiem. Golden Experience Requiem is considered one of the most powerful stands in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It is the evolved form of Giorno Giovanna's stand, created when Golden Experience is pierced by the Requiem arrow. Its main ability is an absolute defensive power that nullifies causality. When an opponent takes any action, moving, attacking, or using a stand ability such as stopping or erasing time, Golden Experience Requiem resets that action to 0. The cause occurs, but the effect never does. In simple terms, it works like an undo on reality. An opponent may attempt an attack, but before the result can happen, Golden Experience Requiem resets events to the moment before the action began. This reset affects not only the physical action, but also the opponent's will to carry it out. The enemy is left in a state where they can never reach the truth of their intended outcome. Golden Experience Requiem is sentient and can act independently of Giorno. During the fight with Diavolo, it was able to move and speak within erased time, even while Giorno himself was unaware of what was happening. When Golden Experience Requiem kills someone, the result is not a normal death. Because death is an effect, it can be reset to 0 as it occurs. The victim experiences the act of dying, but before that death can be completed, it is undone. They are then placed into another situation where they die again. This process repeats endlessly, trapping the victim in an infinite loop of deaths without ever reaching a final end. Lion's Heart. Lion's Heart is an authority from ReZero used by the Sin Archbishop Regulus Corneus. Its effect allows Regulus to stop time within his own body. While the world and time continue to move normally, his body remains completely frozen at a single point in time. His heartbeat, breathing, and all bodily functions are halted. Because time does not progress within his body, outside attacks and natural phenomena have no effect on him. Any attempt to harm him fails, since his body is locked in a moment where damage cannot occur. For the same reason, Regulus cannot be affected by things like water, exhaustion, or aging. He does not need to eat, breathe, sleep, or age because his body is frozen in a state where those needs are already fulfilled. This ability also lets Regulus extend Lion's Heart to others. For example, he can pick someone up and throw them, and because time in their body is affected the same way, they aren't impacted by gravity, wind, or any other natural forces. Essentially, while affected by Lion's Heart, the normal laws of the world don't apply to them. By itself, Lion's Heart can only be used for 5 seconds at most, but Regulus has another ability called Little King, which lets him use Lion's Heart indefinitely. Little King works by placing a heart inside someone he considers his. As long as that person is alive and their heartbeat continues, the cooldown on Lion's Heart is constantly reset, letting Regulus activate it continuously. He can implant this heart in 1 out of 100 wives. If that wife dies or stops serving him, the heart transfers to another, ensuring Lion's Heart can remain active forever. Infinity. Infinity is one of the techniques displayed through Gojo's curse technique, Limitless. At its core, the Limitless allows Gojo to manipulate space at an atomic level using his cursed energy. The neutral state of the Limitless technique is Infinity. Infinity creates a barrier that prevents anything from ever reaching Gojo himself. It continuously halves the distance between an attacker and Gojo. Mathematically speaking, no matter how many times you divide something in half, it will never reach 0. Similarly, no attack can ever reach Gojo. It's like dividing 1 by 2 repeatedly in a calculator. The value keeps getting smaller, but never truly reaches 0. As a result, every attack aimed at Gojo, whether physical strikes, projectiles, or even infinite forces, is caught by Infinity and never reaches him. The only way to bypass Infinity is by using something capable of overcoming supernatural phenomena or by bypassing the very concept of space itself. Reflection. Reflection is a Shinjutsu ability used by Daemon in Boruto. The power is simple. Any hostile intent aimed at him is instantly reflected back at the attacker. The attack doesn't fail, it reverses. It doesn't matter how the harm is attempted. Physical attacks, energy-based techniques, traps, or even killing intent itself all rebound onto the person who initiated them. Unlike most reflection abilities in anime, Daemon doesn't need to activate this power consciously, and he doesn't need to touch his opponent. Any attempt to hurt him results in the attacker being harmed instead. If you punch him, you take the damage. If you think about killing him, that intent turns back on you. There are conditions to how Daemon's ability works. To reflect a physical action or attack, Daemon must be in contact with someone. This can be the opponent or an ally. As long as he is touching another person, any action aimed at him is reflected back. His reflection can also be transferred to the person he is touching. However, harmful intent works differently. Daemon does not need physical contact to reflect intent. The moment an attacker harbors hostile or killing intent toward him, that intent is instantly reflected back onto the attacker. This applies to all forms of harmful intent, including killing intent.
The Almighty.
The Almighty is a shrift and the most powerful ability in the Bleach universe, wielded by Yhwach, the main villain of the series. When fully unlocked, the Almighty allows its user to see and know everything. The primary power of the Almighty is the ability to see all possible futures, enabling Yhwach to plan, react, and counter any situation with perfect foresight. The extent of this ability depends largely on the user's own power. The true danger, however, lies in the Almighty's secondary ability. Not only can it see all possible futures, but it can also alter them. By observing different futures, Yhwach understands every aspect of each timeline and can selectively change events as he sees fit. This means he can prevent attacks from ever reaching him or even erase the circumstances of his own death, making him virtually untouchable. The Almighty also gives Yhwach complete adaptability to any attack, making him essentially unstoppable. However, there are a few ways to bypass his ability. One method occurs when Yhwach is asleep. The weaker version of the Almighty is transferred to his second in command. This version can see the future but cannot alter it like Yhwach. If the second in command is killed while possessing the Almighty, Yhwach loses the ability permanently. Another way to bypass the Almighty is by altering the past, which can effectively nullify it. Additionally, a power based on illusion like Aizen's can bypass the Almighty entirely. Without such methods, Yhwach is virtually unstoppable. Inside his own universe, however, he is not invincible. Others can access weapons like the Silver Arrow or Zangetsu, which can counter him.
Kamui. Kamui is a space-time ninjutsu of the Mangekyo Sharingan possessed by both Obito and Kakashi. This ability was so broken that the author had to keep it split up for most of the series. What Kamui does is manipulate space-time to warp objects or people caught within the jutsu into a dimension that can only be accessed by the Kamui user. When this happens, the objects or people are shown being sucked into a spiraling pattern. Kamui works differently depending on which eye is used. The left eye allows the user to use Kamui at long range, warping objects or people from a distance into the Kamui dimension. The right eye, however, grants the user the ultimate defensive mechanism. With the right eye, the user can warp parts of their own body into the Kamui dimension, effectively making themselves intangible. Any attack directed at them simply passes through and doesn't land. Most of the time, the user of Kamui can practically ignore being harmed in battle because no attack can reach them. Kamui also allows the user to travel extremely long distances in a very short period of time. On top of that, Kamui can absorb anyone or anything it comes into contact with and lock them inside the Kamui dimension. It also enables the user to move through barriers or underground at will, all without being traced. There are some limitations to the phasing aspect of the ability. First, the user can't physically engage with someone they weren't in contact with before activating the jutsu. Another limitation is that Kamui has a 5-minute time limit for how long the user can remain intangible to avoid attacks. Aside from these, the only ways an opponent has a chance to land a hit are if the Kamui user's physical body materializes, or if the attacker can somehow send themselves or their attack into the Kamui dimension. In that case, they can damage the part of the user's body that exists inside the dimension. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.